I would say the core 2 years of drama school were fantastic. You acquired so many different tools that you could use. You were exposed to so many different texts that you wouldn't necessarily be exposed to if you were out walking in the world. It was a wonderful, wonderful exploration of different dances, different texts, different experiences. And then we went to the third year, which was the year of productions, and suddenly things got very real. It was realistic casting. It was to do with the casting that you would be cast as in the real world.
Right. So this has obviously been done on purpose to prepare you for the reality of, well, you know, you've been slightly cosseted here, but this is what you're going to face when you come out.
And that was very disturbing, actually, for me. I found myself so ready to explore what the world of acting could give me, and feeling like I could take on anything. You know, I had this joie de vivre. You know, it was fantastic. Give me any role, I can play anything. And then suddenly, in the third year, my first production was playing this ghetto girl from South London, which was fun, but nevertheless, it was a stark reality that, okay, now these are the types that you will be cast in. This, you look like this, and the likelihood is you will be cast as this. It's not necessary to say that you sound like this, but you look like this.
My name is Pirkis, and welcome to Diary of a Failed Actor. And today we're on the Chess Terrace in Central Park. And it's here that I've chosen to talk about a subject that's been requested by one of our followers, Haruka Kuroda. Haruka is a Japanese actress. She is also a presenter, and she's a fight and movement director, and she also devises children's theatre, and she lives in London. And she asked us if we would look into the subject of diversity and whether that is being addressed as fully as we're being led to believe it is, and whether the UK is lagging behind the US in diversity. And to assist me with that, I'm very pleased to say I have a wonderful actress and friend, Yvonne Wandera. Yvonne, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yvonne is actress, writer of both play and screen. She's also an actress on the stage as well as TV and film. And with her we're now going to navigate this subject of diversity. I'm aware Yvonne took the decision and the leap to move to the US for a very good reason, and part of that was the lack of credible roles that she felt she was not being offered in the UK.
I grew up in East London, where there's a huge Asian, meaning Indian, Bangladeshi, Pakistani community. There's a huge black population, meaning African, West Indian population. And we all coexisted. And then if you move slightly further into Essex, which I also lived in, and my mother still lives in Essex, you have also a large working class white community. I saw no differences in terms of treatment of all these different ethnic groups. Generally, it is this perception when you're working class, because that's the neighborhood that I grew up in, that you must try and get a job that will hopefully pay the bills. One is not encouraged to be a writer, one is not encouraged to be an actor, for good reason, because it's a difficult profession. It's a vocation, you have to want it, etc, etc, etc. So putting that in the mix, I would say the writers that make it through are very good at what they do. They're very talented, they're very skilled, they're very adept at understanding text, language, people, intricacies that one may not perceive from a generic, possibly slightly more privileged white writer who maybe grew up in this environment. I'm not saying this is strictly true, but I'm saying one has to push very hard as an ethnic minority to be a writer, and has to be above and beyond special to make it through all the different obstacles, from family obstacles, community obstacles, to schooling obstacles, to just, you know, all the race issues which still very much exist in this day, you know, if we're being completely candid about it. It's not as represented in what we watch, what we see. many of the writers I meet in New York who are ethnic minorities find it very difficult because they end up being typecasted into, right, you know, we're doing a black production now, you know, this is your forte. You can deal with this. You'll lead this ship. And then suddenly if there's another production that's specifically white, they'll be like, okay, you just sit back. I think we have someone else who can steer this. Right. In terms of seeing ethnic minorities play very varied roles, playing homosexuals, playing other characters that are not necessarily fashionable within their communities, and also maybe not quite outside, but definitely within their communities. That's also a little bit difficult. So suddenly you find yourself having to try and break free of those shackles of being an ethnic minority, and then having to break free of the stereotypes, and then having to confront your own community and their stereotypes, and then confront the white community and their stereotypes, and it's just exhausting.
What was was there a disparity still in RADA in 2000?
I'm sure, I'm not completely aware of how it is now, but back in 2006 there were 5 ethnic minorities in a group of 30. We were 30 students and there were 5 ethnic minorities. There was 2 black girls, and then we had 3 black male actors. It was very much sort of types. Actually, there was a total of 6 and 1 Asian mixed race girl. So they tried to spread their ethnicity pool to cover the market, as one may say. And I think that was quite representative of the TV that I was seeing at the time. And also the theatre. I think the biggest difference between the US and the UK is, yes, the size. You have the East Coast, you have the West Coast, you have all the bits in the middle. There is a lot of work available. Equity, non-equity, union, non-union, there is a lot of work available. And in that sense, there was this mirage of the grass is greener. In comparison to the UK, which is a very, very small market. There is a limited amount of work available to ethnic minorities in general, because I suppose if you think of it as it being representative of society, a majority of the residents, of the people in the UK are not ethnic. And that's the argument that was posed to me. So I decided to say, right, you know, maths dictates that one must move across the pond to find more work. Yep. And on the other hand, in the US there is an active incentive to push forward ethnic minorities, to push forward ethnic minorities throughout productions, on theatre, on stage, on any sort of level, in TV, in film.
But I'm intrigued what you say about the American market. And yes, that obviously there is a broader canvas and greater opportunity to be cast beyond. But as we know, Eva DuVernay and Dave DeWillier and a number of A-League entertainers have created a firm rebel because of their feeling that this just, you know, this isn't happening, especially in Hollywood.
Yes.
You know, there are not enough writers. There are not enough writers in TV series. Where are the directors?
I don't even know where to begin with this topic because it's been dire for such a long time. And the reality of it is about marketing, and it's about numbers, and it's about money. And somehow there's still this perception that once you put the label black or ethnic on a production, it's sort of a niche market. It doesn't quite cover the whole. It's a little side dish to the main meal.
Right.
So suddenly you have your productions, your slate of productions for the year, and it's, you know, it's a lovely plate of a lot of white productions, possibly with a few ethnic minorities kind of scattered throughout, just to represent a little bit of society, if you may say. But then you have the one side dish that shows that you're actually connecting with possibly Londoners and North Londoners and people from Manchester, you know. And so it's sort of saying we're connecting with local communities dotted around the UK, but it's ticking the boxes. It's making sure the funding comes through. It's making sure that they've covered the full slate of possible productions, but no more. Because there's this fear, and there's still a very active fear, that if you have too many ethnic minority productions, you'll be an ethnic minority space, until that perception is changed, until there's actually an active incentive of ethnic minorities going to theatre. Let's start off with that. They won't be classed as productions to be entered into the full slate, and marketable productions and profitable productions.
Do you feel there's enough prospect of progression in the UK to encourage you to consider, because you do, I know, you work currently both sides of the Atlantic, and you also swing over to Los Angeles as well. But as far as settling, or where you feel that the work is going to be most directed to what you would love to be cast as, the work you'd like to be doing, or the pieces you'd like to have produced, would that be the UK or the US?
One has to consider oneself as a global artist, not a UK artist, not a US artist, but a global artist, in order to survive, because there is a survival in this. One has to survive, and one has to be relevant and current and interesting and challenging and confronting of oneself and one's community and communities outside your own, and also brave enough to venture into different communities and talk about their stories, because it's all about a human story when it comes down to it. We're all human.
Brilliant, Yvonne, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
My name is John Pirkis, and this is Diary of a Failed Actor.